Welcome back, everybody, to another week of the Transfer Portal CFB Gambling Podcast. We're back for week 12. I'm here with Mike and Matt, my co-hosts. Say hello, guys.
Hello.
How we doing?
And we're going to go through like we do every single week across the entire slate. We'll give you all of our picks that we're tracking, all 5 picks, our over, our under, our favorite, our underdog, and our lock. And then we'll send you away with some money-making picks. But before that, this episode is brought to you by No Context CFB and our friends over at Home Field Apparel. Home Field Apparel is a premium collegiate apparel brand based in Indianapolis, and they're committed to creating incredibly comfortable, officially licensed apparel with vintage college designs. Now, they've got a growing collection of over 150 schools to choose from, including all of your favorite teams, with new designs and new schools being added every single week. And if you're new to the Home Field brand, if you're a first-time customer, use our promo code PORTAL, PORTAL, to get 15% off your first order. That's promo code PORTAL, PORTAL, get 15% off your first order. So that link is in the bio of this video. Also, be sure to like and subscribe to this video. Follow along with us. You can fade us. You can follow us, whatever you want to do. And also follow our other social media or website, thetransferportalcfb.com, and on Twitter, X, at tportalcfb. So we're going to be putting out the podcast along with the graphic. The podcast should come out Friday for all the games, and then the graphic's going to be coming out Saturday during college game days for you to get all your picks in. So let's go over a couple cleanup things with week 11 and then our week 12 overview. There's a little bit of news in this past week. Couple coaching news things. Jim Harbaugh apparently just today there was a agreement, I guess, that he's going to, they're going to drop the investigation and he's going to get, I guess, 3 games on the sideline. Is that it? Is that just the rest of the regular season?
Yeah.
It should be more. They've played 10 games, so it's like, does that mean he's if they get to the Big Ten championship, is he down for that too, or
No, they included Penn State in it, so it said it was Penn State games in the next 2 games.
Oh, okay. So it's essentially no postseason.
So it's just the rest of the regular season.
Correct.
Yeah. I feel like that's kind of an easy way out, but
Definitely.
I mean, yeah. I mean, if they do retroactive punishment, they do retroactive punishment. But I mean, I don't really see a point of him not being on the sideline, like for a big, like the Big Ten championship. That feels a little cheap. But no Ohio State game's kind of big. And then other news. There's a report about Chip Kelly potentially getting let go at UCLA, but that's still a rumor. And then the bigger news is the NCAA continues to shoot itself in the foot and make the wrong decision at just about every single turn. And they uphold their postseason ban for JMU and Jacksonville State, mostly affecting JMU, who is still undefeated, and not allowing them to play in the postseason. So just awful decision all around. You're taking away a lot of money from the school, taking away a lot of practice from the kids, and just honestly awareness. It's a really good story. They're undefeated coming up from FCS level. It's just honestly like the NCAA being awful. But yeah, other news, other things going on. I do got to give a shout out. I'm wearing my shirt, my Beat Coast Guard shirt. Kings Point USMMA beat Coast Guard to win the Secretary's Cup 39-27. D3 football at its finest. And if you haven't watched it, it's the ugliest brand of football of all time, and I'm super proud of it. It's just triple option all day. I think like Barstool and like a couple other, they definitely pulled it from someone, but someone did like an awesome TikTok last year. Just they were like hilariously laughing because they asked if it was the goal line offense on their own 40-yard line because they had all 11 people in the box, like for their regular offense, and that's the offense they run all the way down the field. It's honestly hilarious. But all right, let's do a little cleanup for week 11. Let's do some bad beats. Anything that kind of put you over the edge a little bit or in a good way. But I'll start with you, Matt. Give me some recap of bad beats or a win from week 11.
It's an iffy bad beat because like butterfly effect, obviously you never know what's going to happen. But Washington gets the pick, I think, and they're running it back, and the kid drops it at the 3-yard line. They do end up getting the safety on the next play and end up winning by 7. So, but if he gets in, they're up 10 at the time, and I had -9.5. So if they hold it the rest of the way from there, I'm probably good, but who knows what would happen. But definitely an annoying beat. Especially as an Eagles fan, I've seen Deshaun Jackson do that like 3 times. So I know exactly what happened there, and I'm like, oh, all right, cool.
Yeah, that's like the every single dad like screaming at their TV, like oh my God, just hand the ball to the ref, act like you've been there. But yeah, that's it's I feel like that's like the replay that just keeps on giving, and then people forget about it in like 3 years, and then someone else will just do it over and over and over again. But what about you, Mike?
Yeah, that fumble wasn't even close. He dropped that at like the 3 yard.
Yeah, it was out there.
Normally, yeah, normally it's like the one or he was way out there. Mine was Indiana. We all talked about how we loved the value at plus 210. They were winning at halftime, winning really late in the game. Weird turn of events. Several different the both teams scored. It was 15 points to 9 points in the fourth quarter. Ended up going to overtime, and they gave up an easy 6 to Illinois. They were playing, right? Yeah.
Yeah,
That was rough. I thought that was easy double in money there, but not to be.
I was super confident of that too because Illinois is just like terrible, but they kicked a field goal and then Illinois just they scored and walked it off,
Yeah,
right?
it was like a bad post route to the right corner that just I rarely ever say this because these D1 athletes are fantastic. We always criticize them, like even like the quarterbacks that slide weird are 100 times better athletes than us. I think I might have been able to cover that play better than that Illinois cornerback. I mean the Indiana cornerback. That was bad. That was bad.
It's so funny because honestly, like you look at some of these guys and like when they make like real awkward plays, and you're like, oh man, like how do you not catch that or whatever? And you're like, this guy is the best athlete you've ever played any sport with in
Mhm.
your whole life, and he's like might probably not go in the NFL.
There was one time Matt McGloin he raced to the corner of the end zone for Penn State and he made this ugly dive slide into the corner pylon
Remember that?
and like everybody
Came
was
off
like, "Oh my."
flashing too.
Yeah, he did the Aaron Rodgers belt. And everybody, like, I was in the stands and everybody was like, "Oh my God, like what, how that kid's not athletic at all." I grew up with Matt. Matt was the best on he was the all-star on basketball, all-star on football, all-star in baseball. He was the pitcher, he was the shortstop. Like he's the best athlete that you grew up with, and he does, you know, yeah. To your point, like we think these guys are not athletic and they would run circles around us.
Yeah, and well, we should also mention. I think he's like a state, elective Matt
He's
McGloin now. Like
county
whatever
commissioner, yeah, county
he's the
commissioner.
state, he's a county commissioner. Yeah, I saw that. And it just went. I'm pretty sure our main account tweeted that out because everyone was going crazy. They're like, no, we recognize that name. Like we're not too young for this. Oh my God, memory lane, Matt. Oh my God, McGloin.
Right?
But yeah, I don't have a bad week. I actually had a pretty good week gambling, but I have the opposite. I have a good win. Um, I've had some good luck with Brian Kelly at LSU, and just kind of assuming he's going to constantly put up points. I don't know if it's an ego thing or whatever, but LSU was 38-35 at 10 minutes left in the fourth quarter, and Jaden Daniels looked great all game, but he just looked like he should be winning the Heisman with his performance late in the fourth quarter. He absolutely like ran everywhere. He single-handedly, I think he had like 100 something yards rushing. He had like 4 or 5 touchdowns responsible for, but they put up 2 touchdowns late in the fourth quarter just to completely ice the game. They won like 53-35 or 52-35. But covered the 13 and a half, which was my lock. So pumped that I hit my lock this week. And I mean, back to the well on LSU was definitely a good play. It looked a little sketchy, and it was I was watching it live with one of my buddies, and I forced him to put money on it too. And he was looking at me sideways a little bit until James Daniels took over. So happy about that one. But let's get into our ranked games of the week. There's 4 ranked games. This is a little bit of a rivalry week. It's not like full rivalry week, but there's a couple of rivalries here and there. But I'll start with you, Mike. We got Utah, number 22, visiting number 17, Arizona. This is basically a glorified pick 'em. It's Arizona -1, but the over-under is 44.5. So this is, I mean, they think this is going to be a super physical game. I'm not really, sure what to think about that because Arizona's looks streaky and everyone's kind of be jumping on them. But Utah's a good football team. What do you think about Utah, Arizona?
I think it's going to be a great game. I think I like where the over under is set. I think this is going to look like a Big Ten game. These defenses have been both playing well. I don't think this is going to be a constant theme for me when we talk through a lot of the games, except for maybe a couple. I don't think home field advantage is going to be a huge deal this week because a lot of the students are going home for Thanksgiving this weekend. So it's especially at a school like Arizona where there's a lot of people from out of state that go there. Nobody's going to be hanging around to stay at the game. So that'll be a common theme for a lot of the things I talk. But I'm very interested in this game. Arizona's been a fantastic story. They do everything by committee as well. There's no Jaden Daniels on that team. There's no pick your Marvin Harrison Jr. your Heisman. There's nobody that's lighting up the skies, but they're continuing to compete and they competed against Washington. They competed against they were the first team to kind of hold USC to a really, really close score when USC was really, really good in the public eye. I still think they're a very, very good offense. That's a different story. But I'm very interested in this game, is long story short.
Yeah, no, and I mean Utah kind of does the same thing. They're just like a sound football team, like all around. I mean, I'm sure we're gonna get a little more. I forget the quarterback's name, but the pig farmer story going to be a little bit. But I love that's like come to this show for next level gambling analysis. All the students are partying in Arizona and they're going to be home for Thanksgiving. That's why you gotta fade them. But all right, but let's move over to an actual in-state rivalry game. Number 21 Kansas State at number 25 Kansas. Jalen Daniels also just announced that he's coming back to Kansas next year, so he's obviously not playing in this game. But that was a pretty good announcement for Kansas and Lance Leopold or Leipold. But number 21 Kansas at number 25 or number 21 Kansas State, excuse me, at number 25 Kansas. Kansas State -7.5, and the over/under is 56.5. I think Kansas State's won the last 10 in a row. But Matt, what do you think about this game? And you got any feeling for it?
This is an interesting one because Kansas is a big dog, but for some reason I can't shake the feeling that I think they're gonna compete in this one pretty well. Like Kansas State's obviously the hotter team. They won like the last four of the last five games. They have blowouts, and the other one they held Texas really close. They went to OT. And Kansas with Bean has been up and down. They lost to Oklahoma State and Texas Tech, but they beat Oklahoma when Oklahoma was undefeated still. They blew UCF out, put up a ton of points on them. So like Kansas has good highs, and if you get that hot offense, if you get Jason Bean in rhythm, like they can beat Kansas State. It's just whether or not they get that streaky version of Kansas that can go up and down the field. If Kansas State comes out and shuts them down the first couple of sessions, I think this turns into a pretty ugly one. But if they're able to put up points on the board the first couple of times, I think this gets pretty dicey.
Yeah, no, I strongly agree with that. I think Kansas State's the more stout football team, but it's also interesting. The line I think opened at like 8.5 and then has slowly moved down. And I think Kansas State might have. I think they've covered. Like they've won by double digits, like most of like 6 of the last 10 or something. Like they've been significantly better. So we'll see. I mean, Kansas has kind of flopped around, like you said, but we'll see.
Bean out?
I thought he was playing. Is he out?
I don't know.
Because if he's out, that's a pretty significant loss, I think, for Kansas.
I'm gonna look that up quick.
I thought he was playing in this one because I know he got knocked out early last week.
Yeah, I thought he was coming back. I'll let you guys look that up, and I'll introduce the next game as you're looking it up. But the next game, this is an actual huge game, for in terms of rankings at least. Number 1 Georgia, who jumped Ohio State in this week's college football playoff poll or whatever. Not like it totally matters because all this is going to be settled after we do conference championships. But pretty significant for Georgia to be number 1, and they're visiting number 18 Tennessee. Georgia's -10. I think I'll put it as 10.5 because it's moved up since I've filled this out to 10.5. Over under 58.5. So Mike, I'll come over to you for this one. What do we think about the Dogs visiting Knoxville?
I really think they need to be on upset alert. So I think this is a bigger game than most people think after last week's showing of Tennessee against Missouri. Georgia has shown that they can be run on. You need to be balanced for them to be run on. And I think Tennessee is balanced enough. I wouldn't put the game in Joe Milton's hands for sure. I think that'd be a bad idea. But I think if he is able to complete a few passes, hopefully build some confidence and stay on schedule, I think this is a game. This is one of those where I said the students going home. This one doesn't really matter. Knoxville packs that stadium at 100,000, Neyland Stadium or whatever it's called.
Yeah, especially for Georgia.
Yeah, it doesn't. That one's not going to matter. So I think this is a true home field advantage, and I think if Tennessee can run the rock, I think Georgia better be up to play in this game.
I mean, I think this is going to be a pretty good game, but I think Georgia is starting to really fire on all cylinders. I think that's what the committee saw too. Not that they ever really get anything right, but I think I think Georgia looks really good, and it scares me that of their last 5 games when they played a decent defense, Tennessee has kind of turtled and turned into a pumpkin a little bit. It's easy to show off and say, we put up 55 or 59 against UConn, but then all of a sudden, who they play Missouri last week and they put up 7, and Alabama a few weeks ago and they put up 20, and Alabama kind of just ran all over them. Jalen Milroe just destroyed them. But I don't know. I think Georgia's a better defense than what they've played outside of Alabama. Missouri's pretty good defense, but they're better just offensively. And I think Georgia's offense is kind of clicking at the right time. So I do like Georgia. Going into Knoxville though is pretty difficult. Obviously, people still have memories of last year and all their upsets and kind of the Cinderella Tennessee story. But
and I think that's the difference between the games you talked about. So those 2 games where they got dog walked were not in Knoxville. So that's
fair. Yeah.
They're a different team there for sure. This is not my upset pick. Everybody will see what that is later. I just think Georgia better be on upset alert because I could see this if Tennessee can run. Tennessee has more than 200 rushing yards. I think this is going to be a really close game.
Everyone heard Mike. That is his alt line lock -6.5 Tennessee. Lock it in.
And he is sprinkle on Tennessee over 200 yards rushing is what he.
That's what
likes.
I heard.
I said if I am not predicting that, but I'm going to be watching the game for sure.
If I had wheels, I'd be a wagon. But
yeah, right.
All right, let's move on to. I think this is our game of the week. The biggest game is number 5 Washington visiting number 11 Oregon State. Oregon State is actually favored in this game. They're at home, but they're favored by 2.5, over under 62.5. So pretty high scoring affair. I was honestly shocked to see this line. But Matt, what's your takeaway for Washington and Oregon State? Is this just, do people know more than we know about this game, or what?
I think so. Washington it's kind of the same thing we talked about Washington for a while. They were blowing people out, and then you put them as their lock, and all of a sudden they were in 5 straight 1-score games. So we've established that trend, and so it's partly that, and partly Beavertown is just a nasty place to play in. Kind of like Knoxville, that's one of the best home field advantages in the country. But they play really well. They're a tough team to beat Oregon at home, especially with their style of play. They're not really going to turn the ball over. They're going to run the rock. They're going to overpower you at the line. They're going to be able to. They're not going to play themselves out of a game very often. I do think they will be able to run it on Washington pretty easily. They have a pretty big advantage in the trenches. At least on offense. I don't know about on defense. Defense is pretty close, but on offense for sure they have a pretty big advantage on the line. So I do think they will be able to consistently put up points. It's whether they can put up points with the explosive offense of Washington that keeps them in this game. I think Washington wins it. I think Washington's going to win out, go undefeated. But I definitely see an avenue for Oregon State winning.
Yeah, this is a little bit of if Oregon State forces Washington to play their game, I could see them winning. I just honestly, I thought this line would be like Washington -4 or maybe 3. I was kind of shocked to see this, and this was a huge rat line for me. Like I saw this and I was like, nope, someone knows something I don't know. I if I normally I can guess a line fairly close, but if I miss the team and I'm missing by like a full touchdown to the other team, I'm staying far away from this game. I'll probably end up like sprinkling Washington money line just because like +2.5 is, at that point, if they win, they win. But I don't know. I mean, this game scared the hell out of me. Mike, do you have any thoughts on this?
Same thing. I believe I texted you on Monday or whatever. I was like, how is Washington a dog?
Yeah.
I don't get it. There's also another one. It's not a complete ranked matchup. But number 9, Louisville's a dog at Miami.
I think it's like 1 point or a half point or something too.
Yeah. Last I looked, it was -105 for money line Louisville, and it was -115 or whatever for Miami. I'm missing something there too, because Miami stinks.
I mean, Miami stinks, but Louisville's also like the worst undefeated team I've ever seen. Like
they got one loss. They got one loss.
I forgot they do have one loss.
They got smacked by a bad team. I forget who it was, but it was like one of the worst teams they played this year, and they got blown out.
Was it Virginia? I think
it was Virginia, because they beat Notre Dame. Like they have like good wins, and then they just have like
I think it was Pittsburgh. It was Pittsburgh, wasn't it?
It was Pittsburgh. You're right.
Mike, you definitely had that on one of our podcasts too. You 100% had one of the backyard brawl teams. You definitely pinned.
They lost by 17 to Pittsburgh.
Oh my god!
All right, I'm glad they're. For some reason I still had in my mind that they were defeated. Thank goodness. Yeah, but that one doesn't make sense because they're both bad. Miami's not good, so it's not like it's a big, change. But Washington's a good football team. They're just a little bit streaky and they look vulnerable at times. But I know Oregon State's really good, but that was shocking because a lot of people were clamoring for Washington to be number 1 for a long time. So I don't know. We'll see, but that's a pretty scary game in terms of how that line shook out, and it hasn't moved either. I think it opened at 2.5, and it's just stayed right at 2.5.
I think I saw it at 1.5. So I think
that's even worse. That means it moved towards Oregon State.
No. It was at 1.5. No. I think I saw it when I was doing like my picks. I saw it at 1.5. So I think it moved down like recently.
Oh, okay. All right. Maybe that makes a little more sense, but I'll trust if anyone has that as their picks. I'll trust whatever line that they looked at it as, because I filled this out, much earlier. So, but all right. So let's do a little bit of cleanup before we get into our picks. Review of last week. I was 4-1. I hit my lock. Felt pretty good about all of my picks. The only one I missed was, I think it was my under Stanford, Oregon State, and that was because Oregon State just absolutely blew the doors off Stanford and put up like 62. They covered over by themselves, but no. Other than that, I thought they were just going to run the ball and kind of sit down, but they probably just wanted to tune up for this game this week against Washington. But 4-1 hitting my lock. Matt 2-3 losing your lock, and then Mike 1-4 losing your lock too. It's pretty odd for me to be at the top of the standings on this, but we're
Is that the first week you hit your lock and neither of us did?
Yeah,
because I think one of them, Matt, you hit yours, and then the other one, Mike hit his. But back to the overall standings, Mike, you're still positive. You're 20-27, 6-5 on your locks. Matt's in second, just a perfect 500, 27-1. But 9-2 on your locks, and then I'm in third, trying to get myself back to even 24-30-1, 3-7-1 on my locks. So let's go to all of our picks. Again, going to do our 5 picks, our over, our under, favorite underdog, and lock of the week, and then we'll send you on your way with some money making picks and an upset, a true upset, a parlay, and a teaser. And then we'll throw out a couple additional picks that we kind of want to just talk about. But let's start with our over. So who do you have as your favorite over for the week? Matt, I'll start with you.
I went with SMU Memphis over 64.5. I thought this was.
I love this.
I thought this might be in like the 70s for the number, so I'm very excited to get this at 64. These are two offenses that are both really, really hot. Both teams are really hot too, 8-2. This is a really good game. This is probably one of my favorite games on the 9 a.m. slate. But last 5 weeks, SMU's put up 45, 36, 69, 55, 31. Memphis has put up 44, 59, 45, 45, 21. Like these are two hot offenses, and it's not like the defenses are playing well either. Memphis has allowed 50, 42, and 38 in that span. SMU's allowed 31 twice. Like these are two offenses that can get and move the ball efficiently. Preston Stone is looking like how we thought he was probably going to look at the beginning of the year. Hennigan's looked really good. Both teams can run the ball as well. Memphis's running back has like 900 yards and 12 TDs. This is just going to be an up and down game. It's going to be a very exciting game. So I'd love the over here at 64.5.
Yeah, I love this pick, and I've been riding SMU. I think SMU's offense is incredible, so I love the over here. Memphis is super hot as well. But yeah, no, I was debating putting this as my over as well. But Mike, what do you think about that? And what do you got for your over?
I love that pick. SMU has shown that they can cover that themselves in a couple of games. I don't think they're going to, but yeah, I wouldn't hesitate seeing this game be a 45-35 and getting close to 80 points. So I like that pick. Mine is kind of like a cardinal sin. So I'm taking the over in an Iowa game. But this is a different one. So Illinois at Iowa. Illinois' defense is so bad. They are ranked in the hundredths in pretty much every single category on defense. So I think Iowa's offense is actually going to score 20 or so points this game. And on the flip side, Illinois offense. I know.
I want that clipped. I want that clipped and tweeted out.
Illinois' offense is good. They rank in like the top 40 in most categories. Luke Altmaier is kind of clicking right now. So and a big portion of this too is the Mel Kiper's projected top 15 pick. Cooper DeJean's out for the season.
Yeah.
So Luke Altmaier is going to face a zone defense that he knows is going to be zone every single time. He's going to make some throws. They're going to have some big plays. They're going to have some times where they're going to score in this game. So that I'm projecting 23-20 type of game for something like this. Dare I say alternate line over 39.
39 in an Iowa game?
That's my if you're looking to make some money, dare I say over 39 in an Iowa game.
For the record, I wasn't laughing at Mike's pick. I was laughing at the idea that they could even get up into the 20s.
I really think they're going to.
I mean, Mike, the only problem it's not Indiana or you on playing D-back for Iowa. They're a little bit better.
No, but it is me playing D-back for Illinois, so I think Iowa's actually going to score a little bit.
That's fair. Oh my God, that's so funny. Alternate line 39. Put it on the card, but no, I mean, the only reason I feel like I'm the only or I guess me and you, Mike, have just had zero luck bet on Iowa this year. But the only reason I don't hate this pick is because I think it opened at like 30.5, and it's moved up. And to move up a point and a half in like 2 days for an Iowa line is unheard of for this season.
They scored 22 on Rutgers. Rutgers not bad. Rutgers has a pretty good defense.
Yeah,
I'm not.
So the Ohio State in check.
Yes, I'm not going to say that Iowa's offense is clicking. Do not hear me say that. But I do think they're going to score in the mid-20s in this game.
All right, well, we'll see. We'll see. I feel like that's going to either come back and you're going to look like a genius, or you're going to be really punching yourself and texting me, I can't believe I have Iowa, and it's 7-6 right now in the fourth quarter. But
Iowa's offense is clicking like that noise you get when your engine won't turn over. That's how Iowa's offense is clicking.
Yeah, Brian Ferentz is out there beating the starter.
My over is offenses that are actually clicking. I have Florida and Missouri over 57.5. I love this over mostly because I just love Missouri's offense. I think Brady Cook is fantastic. I think they're going to throw the ball a lot. And when I was kind of doing a little research to look at this pick, I was kind of blown away that Graham Mertz has just as many yards on the season as Brady Cook, and that he's actually looked really good. He's 18 touchdowns to 2 interceptions on the year with was it 2,700 yards. I feel like I remember myself like week 2 betting against Florida because I was like, well, Graham Mertz can't really do anything. So not that I'm really betting on Graham Mertz to do all that much. I think the line is Missouri -11, but I think Florida is going to put up some points. I mean, against Georgia, they put up 21, or no, sorry, against Georgia, they put up 20, and LSU, they put up 35. So if, Florida is definitely going to be able to hang in this game at least for a little bit. I think Missouri is just going to be too much for them to handle on offense. And I could see this game, honestly, both teams getting in the 30s. So I love this under 60, but 57.5 Florida at Missouri. That's my pick for the over. Let's move on to our unders. So what do we have as a under total for the game? I'll go right back to you, Mike. Who do you got for your favorite under?
I got Rutgers at Penn State under 42. I loved this line when it came up. Rutgers got shut out last week by Iowa, 22-0. I think you could see something similar against Penn State this week. And Penn State fired their offensive coordinator. So they got 2 different people apparently calling the plays this week. I think it's more the tight ends coach that they put because he said he was the offensive coordinator at Eastern Illinois. So I think he's going to be calling the plays up front, and then the other coach is just going to be the guy on the field, gauging confidence of people, I guess. But I don't see Penn State putting up, more than 35 points in this game at all. And like what I said before about crowds traveling, the students are going to be going home. They're not as interested after the loss last week against Michigan. I think, normally you see 105,000, 110,000 in Beaver Stadium. I think you're going to see something more like 80,000. And it's going to be cold this weekend at in State College. So I see this one being a running game and not coming anywhere close to 40.
Yeah, I like this because I just think Penn State's defense is going to show, and their offense is just going to honestly run the ball. But like you said, I don't see Rutgers scoring double digits, and I honestly don't see Penn State scoring 30. I think this is just going to be an ugly game. Is this a new game also?
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah.
Game.
Yeah. This is going to be one of those that I'm like, oh yeah, this game's on, and I'm going to tune in and then be like, all right, maybe I'll go over to SMU and see them score a whole bunch of points. Matt, what do you think about that, and what do you got for your under for the week?
I like that. Penn State unders have been, I think, pretty good this year. I think they're on a pretty good pace. I have Michigan State, Indiana, a number. I was surprised to see this at 47. I thought this was going to be down in the low 40s, so I like it at this number. I think part of it's a reaction to Indiana putting up 45 last week, but I think that's more an anomaly than anything else. I do think Indiana's going to win this game because Michigan State's just been spiraling pretty much the whole season. But I don't think either of these teams are going to be able to move the ball very well. Indiana's offense is kind of gimmicky. They have a little RPO kind of read option thing going, but I still don't think they're going to be able to score that consistently on Michigan State. Michigan State's defense is pretty bad, but in like Big Ten games, most of their games have been like 27-12 against Minnesota, 2017 against Nebraska. They allowed 38 to Ohio State, but you probably expect that to be in the 40s or 50s given what Michigan State's defense is. So I think this it might get into the 40s, but I think it's in the low 40s at the most. If anything, this is like a 28-14 game, probably. I don't think it gets to 47 though.
Yeah, I like this pick. I think this is a knee-jerk reaction. This line's definitely too high. I think Michigan State's defense has been playing pretty well too.
Outside of like the Michigan game and the Ohio State game, which like obviously those are 2 games you expect them to get blown out in, they've been decent.
Yeah. No, I like this pick. Actually, I like both of your guys' picks. But yeah, so Michigan State at Indiana under 47.5, like that. I have a little bit higher of a line, but really ugly teams. I have Baylor at TCU under 59. I wasn't really sure which way to go with my under. And then when I was kind of looking up this game, this felt a little bit high because I feel like most of the games that both of these teams play, they're behind and they kind of are playing a little bit catch up football. And then I looked at their red zone efficiencies, and like their red zone efficiency for both these teams is like they're both in the bottom 20 in the entire FBS. Like I think Baylor is like 110 and or TCU is 110 and Baylor is like 122 or something absurd. So I think that both of these teams are kind of ugly and neither are really going to like punch it in or run up the score on each other. I think a lot of their games were them essentially trying to keep pace with a better team. And I know TCU is the better team. I think they're favored by 13, but I don't see them running away with this at all. I see them leaning heavily on the run game. So I think this game is going to be like 27-20 type game and not really get into the 50s at all. But I love Baylor at TCU under 59. Let's move over to our favorites. So our favorites who are giving points. I'm actually going to start with mine because we already talked about my game when we did our previews. But I have Georgia minus 10.5 at Tennessee. I love this Georgia offense. I think they're starting to click. I think everything's starting to turn up for them. And I think Tennessee's way too streaky. I talked about it a little bit before, but I understand this is at home in Neyland Stadium. They're a little bit different of a team at home, but I think Georgia's just kind of a different beast. And if they caught Georgia maybe 6 weeks ago, I think this game, would have been close in a one-score game. But I think Georgia's, Tennessee might be able to keep pace for a quarter, maybe a half. And I see Georgia's just kind of putting their foot on Tennessee's throat and just kind of beating up on them. I think Joe Milton's not going to be able to handle it. If Tennessee can run, like Mike said, if they get 200 yards rushing, I might be eating this pick, but I don't know if I see them getting 200 yards rushing against Georgia. So I'm feeling pretty good about Georgia being up by at least 7.5, and then kind of putting a score to make it more comfortable and winning by 2 touchdowns. So Georgia minus 10.5 at Tennessee. I'll move over to you, Mike, for your thoughts, and then what you got for your favorite of the week.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if Georgia blows them out. I just a freshman quarterback on the road in Neyland Stadium. Like I said,
It's gonna be loud.
Yeah, Georgia's been able to get run on. It's if I was going with something, I wouldn't tie a parlay with Georgia money line, but if I was going something, I would go with the points for Georgia and sprinkle money line for Tennessee. I wouldn't do plus 10.5 for Tennessee. I don't think that makes too much sense. I got Michigan minus 19.5 at Maryland. I'm a little surprised that it's this few points. Maryland had a bounce back week, but I watched them pretty intently against Penn State a few weeks back, and they're not a good football team.
Not a good football team.
Talia Tagovailoa is very good, and they have a couple good wide receivers, but their offensive line is not good. Michigan's defensive line is their defensive interior, I should say, is very good. Their offensive line is fantastic, so they're just going to be able to run the ball all over Maryland. I don't know that Maryland's going to score many points in this game. I was looking at the under for this game. I want to say it was 44. My only concern there was that Michigan scores 44 themselves.
49.5, but
49.5. Yeah, like I could see Michigan scoring 50 points like that, but I was very surprised. Very similar to the conversation we had with Penn State and Maryland a couple weeks ago when it was 10 or 8 or whatever it was. I was surprised to see it that low.
Yeah, I mean, I love this pick. I'll talk about this pick in a little bit, but it's honestly just I think this is a little bit of a I don't even know what this is a reaction to. I think maybe Michigan not scoring all that much against Penn State, but I think Penn State's defense is fantastic and Michigan scores when they have to, and yeah, Maryland I think is just they put up 13 against Nebraska, and then where they've I don't think they've scored over 30 all year. So I don't really see them keeping pace whatsoever with Michigan. And I mean, you kind of mentioned it last week, because I picked Michigan against Penn State, and it was all the hardball news is just going to fire them up even more, and they're just going to be furious and try to run it up. So I see more of the same this week. I love that pick. I'll talk about the pick in a little bit though.
A crazy stat. I'll be surprised if Michigan has more than 2 punts in this game. I will be surprised if they have more than 2 punts in this game.
Yeah, no, I honestly, I don't see this game being close. From the jump, I think this is going to be, if Michigan gets the ball first, I think they're just never going to look back. But Matt, what do you think about our two favorites, and then what do you got for your favorite of the week?
Yeah, I like both of those. I was gonna have Tennessee as mine, but I saw Mike at it first, or you had it first, so I went away from it. And I think Michigan should. I think that spread should be 3 touchdowns at least. So 19.5, I think is good value. I went with Tulane -9 over FAU, which is Tulane's one of the hotter teams in the country right now, and FAU's been really up and down. They lost to ECU by like almost 20 last week. They lost to UAB a few weeks ago. They lost to UTSA by a lot. So I was surprised to see us in the single digits. I thought this would be like a 2 touchdown spread more than anything. Tulane's offense is really good. Michael Pratt moves the ball consistently. He's not going to throw for 3,000 or 300 on you, but he's going to move that offense very efficiently. And then they run the ball really well. Michael Pratt will run it. Their running back Hughes will run it. They run the little option game. So their offense is very efficient, and then their defense has been really good. They held Rice to 28, which is pretty good considering Rice's offense is running up the score. ECU to 10, Tulsa to 22. So I think this should be a double-digit win for Tulane pretty easily. I don't think FAU is very good at all. And Tulane is like one of the hottest teams in the country. They lost back in week 2 and then have been pretty dominant since.
Yeah, I love this pick. I actually had this pick written down, and then I swapped it out for my Georgia -10.5 because I love Tulane. The only thing is Tulane doesn't normally blow teams out, but it feels like they're always in control of the games they're playing. So I think they're just a much better football team, and I just can't get like the old FAU high scoring FAU out of my mind sometimes, and they're not that FAU team. So I mean, scoring 7 against ECU is just, I mean, they're not a good offense. They're not that good of a football team, but I think Tulane should handle them easily. And this is one of Mike's, like, I do not see the students hanging around at FAU. Like they're not going to be, bothered to hang around for a Tulane game that they're almost double digit, underdogs to. I think Tulane just goes in there, takes care of business. So I love this pick. But all right, let's move on to our underdog. So our team getting points this week. Mike, I'll come right back to you. Who's your favorite underdog for the week?
My favorite underdog this week is North Carolina at Clemson. So I'm an engineer, so I love stats and numbers and everything. The stat junkies love UNC in this game.
Mm-hmm.
They actually picked UNC to win this game. I'm not going that far to say that, but I don't think Clemson can keep pace with UNC scoring. My only concern is UNC doesn't have that great of a run defense, and Clemson's got big boys up front and can string together some runs. They did that against Notre Dame a decent amount. That would be my only concern about them being able to run away from UNC, but I don't think that they can run away from UNC. I think Drake May's going to put on a show. A very similar topic that we've talked to several times. Clemson has a lot of out-of-state students. I don't think they're gonna hang around for a 5-4 team or whatever Clemson is right now. They're not really fighting for anything. I do think that they'll have the stadium that's, it'll be a good crowd, but it's not going to be your normal Clemson crowd. But I think Drake May is going to go off in this one and keep this game within a score.
Yeah, I love this pick. This was such a stat junkie. Like every signal was like pointing to UNC. I saw the line kind of bounce and seem a little weird, like go down to 7 and then maybe 6.5. But I saw it back at 7.5, like just now. But yeah, I feel like this is a game I don't understand because I don't think Clemson's a very good football team. And UNC, I think it's UNC ranked. I think they're ranked number 20.
They're 22nd, but they played. They let Duke back into the rivalry game last week, and they had to win in overtime. They lost to Virginia a few weeks ago. And Clemson's been playing well. Is my only concern. But well for what Clemson is this year,
Yeah, they've looked. I think this line is because they've looked so much better recently, and then UNC is just like for some reason not taking care of business when they were supposed to. But I just don't think Clemson's they're not our slightly older brothers Clemson, so I just don't really think they're that good. But yeah, no, I love this pick. I feel like this is like the most popular, people looking at signals and predicting a touchdown upset. I think people love this. But yeah, so Matt, I'll move over to you. What do you think about that? And then what you got for your favorite underdog of the week?
Yeah, I love the UNC pick. I'll talk about that a little bit later. I went with a Northwestern +3 at Purdue, which is another one I don't really understand. Like Purdue has nothing really fighting for it right now. They're just hanging out there to be a Big Ten West team and do what they do. Northwestern is a game off being bowl eligible. Their head coach they just announced they took the interim tag off him that Bruin. They're giving him the full job, so that's big for them. Ben Bryant came back last week, their starting quarterback, and he played pretty well last against Wisconsin. They had a big win over Wisconsin. I don't understand why Purdue's favorite here. This line even started, I think Northwestern was like a half point or 1 point favorite. There was this like slight favorites, and it's jumped down to Purdue -3. And I just don't understand that. And I could they maybe they know something I don't, but I'm gonna bet that they don't. I'm gonna say Northwestern +3.
I honestly just hate this line because I just don't understand this line whatsoever. Like that was both teams are just really ugly, but I didn't know that about Northwestern's coach. So honestly, that alone to me is worth 3 points, and that's like they're just playing for him, and that'll be him becoming the full-time coach. So yeah, this is a big time stay away game for me because like you said, the line moved, and I just don't like either of these teams. This is at Northwestern, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and in Northwestern, I feel like they just have slow grass and slow games, so I don't trust Northwestern whatsoever. But no, I do like that pick, especially hearing that coach info. But my favorite underdog of this week is Wake Forest +24.5 at Notre Dame. This is a pretty big line. Wake Forest is not that great of a football team, but Notre Dame's coming off a bye, which is not ideal for Wake Forest. But I see this specifically as a little bit of a revenge game. Like Sam Hartman just up and left Wake Forest when he was finished and wanted to up his draft stock, went over to Notre Dame. Notre Dame has not performed the way that they thought they would, and Wake Forest is kind of struggling a little bit. They're 4-6, but and haven't looked fantastic. But I see this being completely Wake Forest getting up and trying to prove something essentially against Notre Dame and specifically against Sam Hartman. Wake Forest's defense has actually performed pretty well throughout the entire year. Their offense is just their biggest issue, and Notre Dame's defense, excuse me, is their strength. So it's a little bit of a strength for strength, or a strength weakness versus Notre Dame's strength and Notre Dame's weakness against Wake Forest strength there. So I just see this as being a kind of a low scoring game, and I could see this being within a touchdown at the half, and a lot of people bringing up the point that, oh, wow, this is, no bad blood, but Wake Forest has a chip on their shoulder. And then Notre Dame probably pulling out and winning by 14 or something. But I just don't see them by winning by more than 3 scores. So I think a pretty safe bet is Wake Forest being, angry going into Notre Dame and keeping it close for a little bit. So Wake Forest +24.5 at Notre Dame. Let's move on to our locks of the week. So our favorite pick of the week. I'll turn it over to you, Matt. Who do you got as your favorite lock of the week?
I went with Washington +1. That's what I saw it as against Oregon State. So if it is +2.5, whoopee, but it's the same to me. I think they're gonna win this game, so they should cover either of those numbers.
Mhm.
Oregon State is a good team, and Corvallis is a tough place to play in, but I just don't think they can hang with Washington's offense. I think that's the great equalizer here is their defense isn't outstanding, and to stop Washington, you need to have an outstanding defense. No one's really been able to do it yet. So unless Oregon State's able to put up like 30 or 35, I don't think they'll be able to really stay in this game. You have pretty much have to put up that much to stay in a Washington game. Like I think Washington wins this game. So any plus money number I'm on.
Yeah, we talked about this, when we introduced the game, but this is a line I just don't understand. I think they're not like a fluky number 5 seed. They're a really legitimate number 5. Michael Penix Jr. is definitely, this is a game to make a case for the Heisman. I think he's the front runner as of now, but Jaden Daniels really showed out last week. But the fact that Washington's undefeated means that he's got statistically a better chance of winning the Heisman. So I don't think Oregon State's defense is fantastic. I think their offensive line and their offense is good, but I think Washington's just better. So I love this pick. I love them getting any amount of points, but we'll officially, I guess, lock you in at +1, if that's the last you saw it. But I'll give my lock of the week. We already talked about this game because Mike has it as his favorite, but I absolutely love Michigan -19.5. I think I don't really understand this line at all. I think this is a little bit of a reaction to Maryland stopping their skid of like losing 4 straight and Michigan only scoring like 24 against Penn State. But I think Penn State's defense is significantly better than Maryland, and Maryland's not really going to have all that much of a home field advantage. This is just going to be Michigan playing angry about Jim Harbaugh and trying to prove a point and essentially jump Ohio State in the rankings and get ready for their big showdown in like I think it's the day after the 2 days after Thanksgiving. So I don't really I can understand if people think this might be like a look ahead game. They're like looking ahead to Ohio State, but I don't think so. I think Tagovailoa is like someone you have to pay attention to. I think they're going to run a really good like scout defense on him, and I don't really see Maryland scoring that much at all. I see Maryland being held to like 10, maybe 14 points, and Michigan just kind of like all firing on all cylinders, getting ready for next week. So I love Michigan winning by over 3 scores, but Michigan -19.5 at Maryland's my lock of the week. Mike, what do you got? What do you think about ours? And then what do you got for your lock of the week to close us out?
I already talked about yours and why I like it so much for sure. And I like Washington to win this game. Again, we talked about not understanding that line. I truly don't. I mean, I think people are maybe buying into DJ being into big games in the past, and he hasn't performed in those big games. So I don't know what I just don't get it. But my lock of the week, you said it was 11. I got it at 12. I got Missouri -12 at home versus Florida. Florida has lost their way. They had every chance to kind of save a season last week and completely blew it. I know you brought up Graham Mertz's stats before. That has to be all garbage time because none of that has been during any sort of relevancy in terms of solid matchups or anything like that. And Cook has been outside of those last 2 quarters against Georgia dealing. I think that Mizzou's going to run away with this one. Their defense is good enough to keep Florida at bay. And I think you might see Billy Napier get fired after this game.
That would be wild. But I'm all on board with this. If Missouri puts up 58, then I'm stoked. So, Brian, before we close out locks of the week, do you guys want to keep your line? Or I'm looking on my bookie right now. We got Washington at 2.5 and Missouri at 11, so we can officially make the change.
Give me 11, of course.
I'll take 2.5. Sure, that 1 point win is going to be nasty for me.
All right, I'm just saying because I want to make sure it's locked in on the podcast before we tweet out the graphic. But yeah, because that's the last I've seen it, and as of us recording, we're recording this on Thursday, so maybe it was yesterday. Normally we record on Wednesday, so it might have bounced around a little bit, but we got our official locks in. So I got Michigan -19.5, -19.5 at Maryland. Matt's got Washington +2.5 at Oregon State, and Mike's got Missouri -11 at Florida, or at home. So
at home, at home versus Florida.
Yeah. All right, so those are our 5 picks. We're going to tweet them out, obviously, like we do every week. We'll tweet out the graphics on Saturday, so you can track us and follow along. And we'll send you on your way with a couple of plus money picks. So we're going to do an upset and then our parlay teaser of the week. So our upset is basically a 2.5 point spread for an underdog or just +130 and up. So we'll give you the money for these, and then we'll give you the money for our parlay or teaser that's at least 3 legs. So for upset of the week, who do you got, Mike, for your favorite upset this week?
I got a game that Matt talked about a little before that I'll talk a teensy bit more on. Northwestern at home versus Florida. Versus Purdue. Sorry, +130 money line. So yeah, much different. That would not be the line. Ben Bryant's a good quarterback. So like I'm not saying Northwestern's a great football team or anything like that, but Ben Bryant's a good quarterback. They're gonna do well to have him back. He's a complete difference maker for them for sure. I think it means a ton that they brought that coach back full time. They removed that interim tag. I think that like you said before, the team's gonna be fighting for him. They had I forget what the stat that not the name that Northwestern tweeted out before. Their coach has like a branded person name on it. It's like the Nancy and Brian so and so Northwestern football coach. It was funny if you look up Northwestern's Twitter or X account to look at that. But Purdue's not really playing for much. They're not going to be bowl eligible or anything like that. Northwestern can be. So like they're playing for their coach, they're playing for bowl eligibility. They got their signal caller back. There's just too much going in Northwestern's favor for me not to take this pick.
I mean, yeah, I love this pick solely because of the coach storyline. Like I said, I was staying away from this, but Matt already talked about this and loves it too. So the whole podcast is pulling in the same direction here. I'll give my upset. Little bit of a rivalry game out in California, but I have UCLA plus 210 at USC. I think USC is obviously reeling. There's a lot of clamor going around about Caleb Williams, and they've dropped 4 of their last 5. I understand they got one of the best offenses in the country, but it just hasn't looked too good for them. UCLA hasn't really looked that good either, but I think they definitely get up for this game in the Coliseum. I think the line is 6.5, but instead of taking 6.5, I think just honestly sprinkle for doubling your money on the money line. But Dante Moore warmed up last week. He didn't end up playing, and UCLA was playing their 3rd string quarterback. So just taking a look at their last 2 games is a little bit deceiving for UCLA. But the big storyline here is Chip Kelly. They basically leaked the story that he's getting fired after this year. So this is kind of if he's not gone yet, I think he just completely is in his bag and pulls out all the stops and he's got nothing to lose. So I see this game getting a little bit weird. It's probably going to be a little bit more of a high scoring game, but if this is a rivalry matchup, I think instead of taking the points, I'm just going to kind of throw a little bit of money in the upset fund for plus 210 UCLA to roll into the Coliseum and beat USC. Matt, what do you got for your favorite upset of the week?
Me and Mike are kind of plagiarizing off each other. He took my underdog as his upset. I'm taking his underdog as my upset. I have UNC plus 250 at Clemson. This is just great value in my opinion for what I think is a better UNC team. I understand Death Valley and how Clemson performs there. I just don't think they're a better team in any circumstances than UNC this year. I don't think they can score with them. They'll be able to run on them, like Mike talked about. The run defense isn't great, and UNC does have some bozo tendencies where they just let teams back in game and don't finish the game when they should. But if both teams are at their peak, if both teams play their best, this isn't a close game. So I'm betting on UNC doing that more often than Clemson does.
I mean, yeah, we already talked about this game a lot. The only thing I want to bring up, though, also is Mac Brown. They just announced that he's coming back next year, too. So, I mean, if anything, maybe it's a little bit of a circle of wagons for the old man. So I think Mac Brown's got to be like 80 right now, and he's still coaching high-level D1 college football. So, I mean, I'll forever love Mac Brown for bringing a natty to Texas. But yeah, no, I think this is a good pick. We already talked about it at nauseum, but love this. Love both of your guys' upsets, and then hopefully UCLA can pull it off and make everyone some money. But plus 250 is awesome value for UNC to pull it off. But let's move over to our parlay or teaser of the week. So this is at least 3 legs, and then we will give you the plus money after it. I'm actually just going to go first with mine, but mine I'm doing. Haven't hit this in a few weeks, but the 595 special. This is 3 straight up lines of teams I love. But I have Georgia minus 10.5 at Tennessee, Michigan minus 19.5 at Maryland, and Florida and Missouri over 57.5. So literally three of the picks I already had this week. I went 4-1 last week. I was feeling great about these 3 specifically. But yeah, so my over, my favorite, and my lock of the week all just parlayed together. I think the last I saw the Florida Missouri line was 57, and it was like minus 112 or something. So it was like plus 589, but I got it at 57.5. So I'm just calling that the minus 110 across the board for all three of these, and parlay them all together, you get plus 595. So about six times your money. And I think all these picks are pretty sound picks, except, Mike apparently thinks Tennessee's running for 200 something yards. So, but, but yeah, so plus 595 for all three of those. And gave my reasoning before, but love all these picks. But Mike, what about you? What do you got for your parlay or teaser of the week?
I got Big 12 money lines. So these games weren't. I didn't like them enough to bet the spreads on them, but I was close on one, and I'll talk about that one a little bit. I got Kansas State money line at Kansas. I just think Kansas State's finding their identity. They're clicking at this time. I don't understand this as a rivalry game. I don't want to touch that 8.5 spread, but I like them for money line. This one was close to being in my favorites. Was West Virginia money line versus Cincinnati. I got to do something with the backyard brawl every single week, right?
I thought you were sick or something. I was waiting for it to
No. I think the line was -6. It's at home for West Virginia and Morgantown. I don't think Cincy's a very good football team. And West Virginia's kind of clicking. They had a bad week last week against Oklahoma, but Oklahoma is not a bad football team, so I'm not surprised by that. But they've been playing pretty good football the mid third of this season. Then I got Texas money line at Iowa State. I'm not betting any more Texas spreads. They let everybody back in the fourth quarter. They might lose one of the times that they do that. They almost lost last week against TCU. That was
knock on that wood door behind you, man.
Oh,
Mike,
no.
what are you doing, bro?
I don't know what they're doing. And then Oklahoma State money line at Houston. I don't know what the hell happened with Oklahoma State last week. I'm assuming it was a fluke. But Houston also is not a good football team. So all these money lines together, four of them will get you plus 237 odds.
Yeah, I mean, I love all these picks. I know Pitt's playing today, so Pitt's playing Thursday, so you only had one chance to get the backyard ball team in there, and I'm glad you found a way to get them in there. But I mean, I love all these picks. I think these are all pretty good picks. I know Texas's spread is like 7.5, and I purposely didn't touch that because that half point I feel like is going to be terrifying because Texas, like you said, just lets it roll back in. But no, like all these, so all four of those together plus 237 is good value. Matt, what do you think about ours? Then what do you got for your parlay or teaser of the week? Closest.
Yeah, I like both yours. I think all of those teams should win. Those are all the only one that worries me really is Kansas State, but I think Kansas State should win that game. It's just if randomly Kansas gets hot. We never really came back on it. Bean is they haven't announced anything. No one really knows anything. He's practiced a little bit, but that's about all that's been said on that situation. I'm going back to my 6-point 4-leg teaser. It lost by 1 point last week. I hit three of the legs, and then Jacoby George had a random 85-yard touchdown in the fourth quarter that killed that one. So but I'm going back to that. So Washington, I guess if I'm going with the 2.5 number, I have Washington plus 8.5 at Oregon State, but it's 7.5 or 8.5. Either of those numbers I like. Rice plus 3.5 at Charlotte. I can't really see a way Rice loses this game. Their offense is kind of clicking, and Charlotte's been really bad this year. Iowa plus 3 at Illinois. I really like Iowa -3. I almost made that my favorite pick, but I decided to stay away from it. But I got it back in here at +3 against Illinois. I think Iowa will be able to put up it may be in the 20s, maybe in the 20s, like we talked about. So I like them to win that game. And then Louisville plus 7.5 at Miami. That was a spread I didn't really Miami's been pretty bad this year. They were able to hang kind of in there in the rivalry game with Florida State last week, but I don't see the same happening with with Louisville this week. So that's plus 300 for those 4 picks.
Yeah, I mean, I like all those picks. I almost made Rice, I think, because Rice was -2.5, right? For the actual line. I almost made that my favorite because I love that pick. I didn't really understand that line at all. But no, a couple lines I just don't understand. So maybe that's why they freak me out. But no, I like all those. Plus 300 is great value too for that too. But all right, so those are all of our picks. So those are our 5 picks, and then our money making picks. Other picks we want to throw out. I'll just throw out 2 that I had. We already talked about this, Matt, because I think you had it. But I love Tulane -9 or 9.5. I think you had it -9 at FAU. Love that pick. The only pick I liked that I ended up taking because the line's just a little too big, but I do love Oklahoma minus 24.5 at BYU. I think BYU is just they're just getting trounced by everyone, and whenever they face a team with a good offense, they just get blown out. They get the doors blown off. So I think Oklahoma, this is a little bit of a bounce back for them in terms of like really showing off and flexing their offensive muscles a little bit. So I do like 24.5, but I just didn't love it enough to put it as my favorite. But what do you guys got? Matt, I'll turn to you and then Mike to close us out.
Two I already talked about a little bit. So UNC plus 7.5. I have them upset. Obviously, I like them to stay within a touchdown. Iowa minus 3. I just talked about a little bit. And then Ohio State minus 27.5. I think this should be a tune-up game for them for Michigan. So I think this should be a game where they come out and try to win convincingly. So I think they should be able to cover 4 touchdowns against a really bad Minnesota team. So I kind of like the value there too.
Yeah, no, I love that too. It's just that number was just like high for what I think it's at Minnesota.
No, it's at Ohio.
I thought it was at
Show?
Minnesota.
It's at Ohio State. Pretty sure.
It's at Ohio State.
Yeah, it is at Ohio State. Yeah, but it's like an afternoon game. It's a 4 p.m. Eastern game. But yeah, this is one of those where like it scared me a little bit because like the over under was like 48.5 and they were supposed to win by 30 or 27.5. So it was like a little bit of a, I see their defense stepping up and I don't know, maybe Ryan Day just really wants to cover spread. So we'll see. But no, I like that pick too. What about you, Mike? Close us out with a couple of extra picks.
I like that Ohio State pick now that I know it's not at Minnesota. I must have glanced quick and saw that I thought it was at Minnesota. Most of them we already talked about. I like West Virginia minus 6.5 against Cincinnati at home. I like Iowa at home minus 3 against Illinois, and I love Louisville money line at Miami. Miami's not a home field advantage or anything like that. My only concern is Louisville's very inconsistent. I mean, you can't lose to Pitt by 17 and then let me have confidence in you.
Yeah, no, I like all those picks. All right, that's our show. We got our 5 picks. We'll put out the graphic before the games start on Saturday, probably sometime during game day. But thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next week for the Transfer Portal CFB Gambling.